What is up, everyone? Welcome to Adobe Live. I'm so excited to host you guys. My name is Colby Kleitz, and today we are featuring Ben Courtice here. Yeah, so good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Let us know where you're all tuning in from. I know we have international audience everywhere, so drop in where you're tuning in from, what time it is, all that fun stuff, because it's always cool to see who we got. But yeah, Ben, do you want to give us a little bit of background about yourself and yeah, what you do?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Ben Courtice, and I'm a graphic designer and illustrator in Toronto. So I run a company called Boring Friends, which is a mix of myself as like a designer for hire. So I do a lot of branding, illustration, and merch, that type of stuff. And then I also run online shop where I sell like tees and totes and art prints and those types of things. So
Nice.
yeah, that's me.
Nice. It's pretty cool stuff. Definitely go check out his shop at Boring Friends. Some really cool merch and apparel and all of that. So yeah, super exciting. You want to tell us? So I know we're gonna be working on kind of a poster design process today, and I know you had some kind of ideas, and I know we're gonna be starting out kind of sketching in Photoshop, messing with some color in Illustrator, and then return back to Photoshop for the final touches. So I don't know if you want to kind of show us a little bit of a sneak peek of what we're kind of diving into today.
Yeah, I mean, do I do the big reveal now of what it's going to look like, or do we work
No,
our way up
I
to
think
it?
work our way up to it. It's a good
Work our way
call.
up to it. Okay,
Sorry.
all right. Yeah, I mean, can't just give away the
I
secret
know,
ending right away.
right?
But basically, yeah, I make a lot of posters. That's usually what a lot of my art sort of looks like, or looks like poster type work. And some of them I'm a little more thoughtful about, or a little bit more. Um, I don't know, but like this one, I just kind of wanted to make a fun reminder for myself. I need to be like drinking more water on a day-to-day basis. So I decided to make like a public service announcement poster about drinking more water, or at least something that I could put up in my place that would give me a little visual reminder to actually drink more water. So
Nice. No, I
that's
love
the
that.
that's the inspiration behind it. But you'll see where that where that kind of ended up going.
Nice. No, I love that. I haven't read this in your bio too, but I drink way too much coffee. I'm drinking these yerba
Hmm.
mates left and right now, so it's like even for myself, I know I just got to drink way more water. I'm struggling with that now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You need to offset that a little bit. You got to dilute the caffeine.
Oh, definitely. And then
But I don't
just
do it.
that's fair. And then just the chat as well. I know we got people from South Texas. We're looking at Austin, Paris. I saw Netherlands, I think, for a second. So
Oh
yeah,
my
people
God,
from really Sweden. So
we're
yeah, it's pretty
international.
wild. It is. It's super wild to see. It's like a lot of these people are tuning in at nighttime or morning, and
The
yeah,
sun
no, it's
isn't
super
even
cool.
up where they are. That's
I
crazy.
know. It's awesome. I love it.
Crazy
So
how that
yeah,
works.
super dope. So do you want to go and dive into Photoshop a little bit, and we can kind of
Yeah.
show some of that
Yes.
magic?
Yeah. Sure. I guess to start, I want to just kind of show off what my sketching looks like on my end, just sort of as a means of showing people that even if your sketches are kind of nuts and all over the place, and aren't necessarily your best work, or aren't reflective of what the final product would be, that it doesn't necessarily matter, because like this is what my sketches start looking like. It's literally just brain dump from my head, scribbling onto paper.
But
Literally wrote like
yeah,
water, rain, water cycle, glass, whatever this guy is down here. Couldn't tell you.
I mean, I
But
love the
then,
scribble, like the style though too, and just like the ideas that we're really capturing here, and like
yeah,
just the creativity, and I don't know, all of these like to you may feel like, oh yeah, these are just quick sketch, but when I'm looking at these, I'm like, oh, these are so dope. Like even
yeah.
right now,
So
like
for me, I
it's
look at these and I'm like, oh man, should I show this on the internet to people internationally on Adobe Live? But here we
yeah,
are.
right.
But I mean, it is just a matter of like I start doing these, and then something sort of starts to click, and then down here I sort of have an idea of like, okay, what is rain? I guess rain really is just like clouds drooling and spitting. So what if it was
I love
like
that.
all of that being captured into like some sort of basin, and then into a glass, and then someone's drinking out of it? So that's sort of what my sketching looks like. That's what my internal thought processes look like, when they travel from my brain to my hand. But then once I actually sit down and do the sketching, and do the work and figure it out, it looks a little bit more like this. So this is like the rough
Nice.
sketch, that I. It's a little. There we go. This is like the rough sketch that I sort of started with. Um,
Yeah, it's dope.
Again, just sort of leaning into a dumb drooling cloud, letting a bunch of rain out into a bucket, and then someone who is, I would say, like nonplussed about having to drink water all day.
Yeah.
Which is I don't know. I guess that's the autobiographical part, which is me not wanting to drink water as often as I should be. But yeah, this is
Mhm.
this is sort of the next step for me where I have like kind of a sketch and a good idea of what I want the sort of layout to be. I didn't want to do this part specifically on Adobe Live because this literally ends up taking me forever and ever to
I
get to
believe
this
it.
stage and to like ideate on it and to just feel like I've made something that sort of makes sense and is coherent in any way. Um, but this is where it ends up. Um,
Nice.
and
And
so, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, sorry. I was just gonna say to the chat, Raphael saying love the face sketches. Wade saying I can't even speak. Wade is saying show me all the sketches. So people love seeing the process work,
All
and I
right.
know I do too. It's fun stuff. And then even just the composition of this is just so strong, even though it's like a refined sketch. Like I love how it just overlaps a lot of these kind of like window panels, and there's just layers to it. Like it just
Appreciate that.
like
Yeah,
depth.
I
Yeah,
feel
it's
like
cool.
I usually like to overlap a bunch of stuff in my work. I don't know if it's just like sort of a fun trick for me because I think it looks good like come time for the final product. But um
Nice.
yeah, I'm glad people are liking looking at the sketches. Maybe I'll be a little bit more transparent of showing how my stuff actually starts off.
Yeah,
But
and do
yeah,
you mind
the
about a quick
composition of it
question?
also like it takes me a while again to get to the composition looking like this. So there's a bunch of phases of iterating on it before I know exactly how it's going to come together. Sorry, what were you
No, that
saying?
makes sense. No, you're good. I was just gonna ask too, because in your sketches, it doesn't look like you think about type as much like early on. So I'm curious if that's more of like when you get into the programs, or if it's like you're kind of doing scribble text or something, or like when
It
that
kind
comes
of
in.
kind of depends. I think as I was working through this, there's probably a couple versions where I was writing out some type on the top and bottom, but that may have been
Gotcha.
a little bit more to explore just the actual like copy of it and what words I want to use, not necessarily the layout of it. I think
Hmm.
once I got to this version of the layout of it, I kind of knew that I was probably just going to throw some copy on either like the top and the bottom or have something super heavy on the bottom with some accompanying text. So um,
Nice.
I usually don't lay it out too much for the type at that point, but again, it just kind of varies piece to piece. This one just ended up being more focused on the visuals.
Dope.
But yeah, that's where we're at with it.
Nice.
So yeah, I guess first step I wanted to show off was me just sort of working through showing how I get from like this sketch phase that you see it in right now to something that's a little bit more properly, I guess, inked, so to speak, or like solid lines that are more purposeful and what I want to work with the final product. So usually just bump down the opacity of that layer to something like 25%.
Sweet.
And then throw up a new layer here.
And
Um,
and
yep, go ahead.
Raphael's asking if you draw in Photoshop, and I'm curious too if you use like a mouse, if you have like a tablet, or kind of yeah, your workflow, just even just getting the inking and the sketching and all that.
Right. To be honest, most of
Mhm.
the drawing that I do ahead of time, especially the sketchier stuff, I do on my iPad because I usually just
Gotcha.
find it's a little more quick and responsive. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm just sort of more used to it. And I like having it just sort of straight up in front of me, and I stare at that.
Yeah,
It's not
same.
often that I do the drawing like right in Photoshop. It's definitely
Okay,
easier to like show it off this way, but I have the same brushes on the iPad as I do on here, so it's just easier for me to show it off on a display this way.
nice.
So yeah, so grab my brush. The brushes that I use for this, I actually have like a custom pack of brushes that I put together with the good pals over at Retro Supply.
Nice.
Um,
They have incredible products, like
they got the best products. It was
yeah,
yeah, we launched it about a
textures,
year ago. It
everything.
was like yeah, it was super fun to work with them. We there's actually so this pen that I'm going to use here for most of the work. Why is that? Oh, I see what's going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had been using it a lot in my work, and it's one of their older. brushes, and Dustin from Retro Supply had reached out to me and said that he couldn't figure out why all of a sudden this brush was like selling a whole bunch. Um, and I guess it's because people would ask me like in my comments or whatever what brush I was using,
Yeah.
and I'd be like, "Oh, I'm just using so and so from Retro Supply." And then he finally tracked me down. He's like, "You're the reason you're like selling this brush. So why don't we work together?" And so we ended up like putting a pack of like all the different Retro Supply brushes that I use together into one.
Nice.
Um, and now it's just called like the Boring Friend Starter Pack. And then like I literally
Ooh.
use it for all of my projects. Like I don't veer off into like other brushes all that often. So anytime I'm doing like line work or anything like that, it's usually using this brush. Um,
No, I love that.
so
I'm gonna drop that link for that in the chat too, if you don't mind.
sure, yeah, of
Those
course.
might as well get some more
Love a
sales
little
for
little
them.
shameless plug.
Right?
Not gonna
It's a
fight you on
great
that.
resource. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess to start off with, yeah, I'll just show how it is that I go about starting with the line work here.
Yeah.
Just make sure my brush is good. Okay, it looks good. Um, yeah, excuse me if this takes like a little longer again because I don't normally go like I'm drawing on the iPad, but doing it into Photoshop and doing it on a live stream and talking at the same time. So I might be a little slower than usual, but
No, I get it. It's multitasking. And
it's
if you need to
multitasking.
focus or
That's it.
something, let me know and I can ask some questions or talk to
Uh,
chat or
Oh,
something.
I'll let you know, but I think we're good. But
Sweet.
yeah, really just a matter of what I'm doing now is just like going over the lines that I've sketched out. None of the lines that I've done in the sketch are necessarily set in stone typically. As you'll
Mhm.
see, I'll probably do them like 1,000 times over. Just, oh, that's what's going on. I don't have any of the smoothing on. Gotta
Oh
remember your
yeah, that's
smoothing.
a huge pro tip right there.
Huge pro
Like
tip, turn
with
on your
shaky hands,
smoothing or
drinking
else
coffee.
people
Yeah.
will be able to tell that you had like 6 coffees for breakfast and
Oh,
just
100%.
6 coffees for breakfast.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I
And
said, nothing that I'm doing here is necessarily set in stone. I usually end up like messing around and trying new stuff sort of as I go. Um,
gotcha.
and
No, that's
maybe seeing
fun.
if like the pieces fit together a little better if I try them in a different way.
Nice. We have a question though, if you don't mind,
Of
from Jennifer
course,
asking how many layers do you typically find yourself using? And is
how
it
many
and
layers?
yeah, and I guess to follow up on that, is it like do you like have everything on individual layers or do you kind of group a lot of certain stuff together or maybe it's like line work textures or I'm curious
I
too.
like it really varies project to project. I think
Okay.
you'll see maybe as we work through this a little bit, like I'll have like a layer for like the specific piece that I'm working on. So like this cloud is on this one layer right now, but then once I go to draw like the face within the cloud, I'll probably have another layer. But then when I want to do another element, essentially whenever I feel like there's going to be like lines that are overlapping,
Hmm.
I'll make a separate layer so that I can like erase properly so that it's nice and clean. Um,
Gotcha.
so I'll show you guys in a minute as we get there because I think that's something that's going to come up.
Dope.
But
No, that makes
for
sense.
for now, just giving this guy a
Yeah. And
nice
Raphael's saying
round
brushes are like
shapes.
fonts. We always need more. So
That's
I think
true.
they're stoked for the
Yeah,
retro supply.
I always get excited to like mess around with, I mean, new brushes and new fonts. I think that's
Oh,
like
same.
it's a designer's weakness, right? Or like
Oh,
a weakness for our
definitely.
credit cards and bank accounts. Um,
100%.
yeah, so like I was saying, like now that I have the sort of outline just of the cloud,
Hmm.
I'll pop in here and add a new layer so that when I want to draw this like rain drool coming from his mouth, I can do so and like, easily run over the lines that I had for the outlines of the cloud and not have to worry about it too much because then I can just pop over into this other layer, hit the erase, and then
Nice.
it's like nice and clean when I go into here to
It
take
is.
out
And that
the rest of
to
it.
be I love that. No, to be honest, it took me way too long to realize that and to layer them because like I'll try to go in back with the eraser and you can never get it to be clean, like flush to the edge. I think I was watching a stream by Hank Washington way back when, and
Okay.
just seeing his Illustrator process of like, yeah, just how you're overlapping the layers and able to erase it that easily. That's when it just clicked for me, and I was like, oh wow, that's definitely 100 times better to do it that way.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference. But I mean, that's like so much of the stuff that I do and that a lot of designers do or whatever. Like we're learning this stuff on our own. Like a lot of it just
Yeah,
comes from us farting around in Photoshop and Illustrator and just seeing what works. So I would imagine there's even people who like watch my process today and be like, why the hell would he ever do it that way? Why would he approach this problem in like using that tool or whatever? And
Yeah.
let me tell you before it's in the comments, you're probably right. You're probably correct that I'm not doing this the most efficient or correct way. Um, that's
Yeah.
just how I learned it. So
Well, and that's the
if
thing.
anyone wants to just
Yeah.
correct me and my process in the comments or tell me how to fix what I'm doing or streamline it, I'm here for it. Let me know.
I love it. No, I've learned a lot from the chat themselves, like Wade, Acuff, Jack, some of these other people in there where I'm like, yeah, I'll do stuff just the way I'm used to doing it, the way I've learned. And there's just way easier ways to go do it. And of course, I
Yeah.
can't think of a good example right now, but like, I know there's about 3 or 4 times where I've been like, just those aha moments of like someone being like, oh, yeah, that's what that does.
Yeah.
And it just
Yeah, there's an
changed
entire tool
everything.
for that thing that you spend like 17
Yes.
minutes on every project doing for no reason.
Oh, 100%. And now I can think of one. One of them was an Illustrator with the align tools. And I just
Oh yeah.
never really realized that, like, I think you see, like, you click caps lock or something like that, and they all start aligning to that one object.
Mm.
And, like, as soon as
Yeah.
I saw that, that's when I was like, it was a game changer because I use that tool, like, every day. And
Yeah.
then I just didn't even realize that. So
Yeah.
it's,
Just little
yeah.
like shortcuts and stuff that you find along the way. I think even just the other day, like, so I would always run into the issue in Illustrator where it's like you have if you have a bunch of type and then you want to
Mm-hmm.
make that type the same color as like a different bit of type that's within the same document. But if you just click like the
Yeah.
eyedropper tool, you're going to get everything from that type. Like it's going to be the same font and the same weight and whatever. But if
Mm-hmm.
you just hold shift, then you just get the color. I just learned
See?
that like I learned that
Oh,
1 week ago. I've been
yeah.
using
I didn't think
Illustrator
I
for
knew. I
like
don't think I knew that.
20 years. Yeah, see?
Yeah.
There you go. We're here to
Yeah.
learn,
We
everyone.
are. And
This
it blows
is
my
this is a
mind because
learning experience for
yeah.
everyone.
It is wild. No, because I use these tools like every day, and then it's just like when someone will say something like that, and I'm like, "Oh, you're totally right. I can imagine that. I don't know why, because it feels intuitive, and then you see it, and it's like, oh, perfect." But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's always fun. I love the
Yeah.
face that's going on here too. Just the
Thank you.
styling of everything is just very funny, like
I had some
I
fun
don't know,
with this.
cartoony. I love it.
People, you got to make learning fun. That's what I've always said.
Yeah,
Um, so that's what I did with this. Um,
nice.
I don't know if we need to go like this. This gives an idea of basically how I do the line work with my stuff. Like, we're on like a shortened schedule with everything here, so
Yeah,
I'll try and motor things along a little bit.
no, you're good.
People will probably say, "Hey, you could just use the fill tool for what you're doing right now." And that's
So we do have a
another
question
situation
over
where, yeah,
from.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, let's hear it.
uh, over from YouTube, Wade dropped it in. They're asking, wouldn't you use the Photoshop liquefier or other tools to correct your lines? And so, to be honest, I'm not
Oh,
familiar with those tools. I don't know if they're ones here.
I mean, I
The
think because I usually don't do the drawing portion of it in Photoshop, I don't end
Mhm.
up using Liquify or anything like that to move the lines around, but that's a really good idea.
Gotcha.
I've never messed with it on that level too much, but I could see how that would be like super useful. And again,
Nice.
maybe the person who will learn the most out of this stream today will be me
That's deep.
from the nice viewing audience.
Oh yeah.
On some like extra little drool down his face
Nice.
here, man. I made this guy real gross.
No, I love it.
Um,
Do you usually stick with the same kind of brush and brush like thickness throughout?
yeah, so just sort of as a general rule with my stuff, I try to have the same thickness for everything in the piece. Like I don't change up the variability sort of in the line width at all. So it ends up
Gotcha.
staying the same for everything, no matter how big or small, which is great for a lot of it, but looks funny on some of it sometimes, but
That's
just ends
fair.
up working out. Um, but yeah, I mean, just as a general sense, this is how I put stuff together with line work. Nothing crazy. Um, Usually I get a little bit more experimentational and start maybe if I like draw the eyes different or move them around or whatever. Like this is the sort of phase where I would typically do it.
Hmm.
Um, but for now, I just drew the cloud. But we're gonna skip ahead and pretend like everyone sat here for 3 hours and watch me do all of it.
Nice. The big time
And
lapse of the
yeah,
finished product.
exactly.
They call it the cooking show kind of. Here it
Yeah,
is.
we've Martha Stewarted it here.
Yes.
So here's what it would typically look like after I've drawn all the lines in. Um,
Nice.
and you can just see relative to what it looked like with the sketch. Like the face I ended up changing up a whole bunch, ended up like adding
Hmm.
in more clouds. layout of this got a little bit different. I think I ended up messing with like the arms and hands a whole bunch. So a lot of stuff
Gotcha.
just end up sort of you learn this stuff on the fly and you learn it as you go.
No, I
Um,
believe it. One of the comments in the chat was saying too, this is the new how did they word it? What's the meme? Everything's fine meme. That's what they said a little
yeah.
bit earlier. That's the person. So this will be the new one. So that's
Okay,
funny.
good. Finally, it's
Yep.
there's I knew we need one for our generation, you know?
Yes.
Finally,
100%.
a new everything's fine meme. Um, all right. So the next thing I usually like to do is like this looks good now, but it feels still a little bit barren. Like it still feels like it needs some filler. So I end up just sort of making the lines a little bit gloopier so the edges aren't as hard. And then I also on top of that do
Gloopier.
some gloopier. You
I
can
love
yeah,
that.
that's it's a word. You can
Yeah.
look it up. But yeah, I do that, and then I usually go through and do some like shading with halftones and stuff like that. So start off with gloopying everything as I was saying.
Nice.
Maybe we'll go like down here just to show what I'm talking about. But I pretty
Yeah.
much like I think you can achieve a lot of this effect just by even doing like a smooth or like just sort of like a blur plus a sharpen type thing within Photoshop, but I kind of like to do it by hand because I get a little bit more control over the final product and how it's going to look. But really, for a matter of me, it's just a matter of like rounding out all the hard edges that are in here. Um,
Gotcha.
'Cause it just looks a little softer, a little bit more like an older drawing, like on a printer that wasn't so perfect or sharp or accurate or whatever.
Yeah, that
Uh,
like bleeds over into the paper a little bit from the ink and
yeah,
stuff. And
exactly.
nice. I've seen this like aesthetic before, and I always wondered like how, because I don't know, for me, it's like I assume like, oh, maybe there's like an action or like a way to do it, but like actually going in there and it's just the thought process of going in and kind of rounding out those corners and stuff too. It just adds so much more like that vintage aesthetic, so much more just style, I think, to it, which is super dope.
Yeah, like I mean, this is also just sort of a phase of the drawing that I find like easy and relaxing too, because I can just do it without having to use my brain too much, and I can just sort of
Nice.
operate a little bit on autopilot. I also like it's a bit of an opportunity to add a bit of like shading and stuff like that too via these sort of hard black lines. So like for this cloud up here, um this just zooms out so slow. I use my fingers there. It like the cloud would sort of reflect onto the edge of this, fake like photo frame or whatever. So I'll usually just
Yeah.
add in like a little bit of extra darkness here from the edge of that cloud, and then on top of
Gotcha.
it, I'll just gloop it like that. Um,
Yeah, just add a little more gloop to it.
a
I
little
do have
more
a quick
gloop to
question
it.
as well, if that's
Yeah,
cool. So
please.
Grace is asking, why do you choose to use Photoshop instead of Illustrator to create this poster? And I know we will be getting to Illustrator in a bit, but at least this
Yeah, I
first
mean,
part.
I usually don't draw in Illustrator myself. I just find I can be a little bit more loose in something like Photoshop.
Mhm.
Illustrator, like working with vectors and stuff like that, it tends to, I don't know, it just doesn't flow the same for me. I know some people draw directly in Illustrator, and that's
Mhm.
great. I'm sure that works really well for them. But yeah, especially because I'm usually drawing on the iPad as well. Like this
Yeah.
phase of it just sort of works best for me. I'm really lucky too that like I think just because I use such thick lines in a lot of my work that if I move over and you'll see later in my process, once I move it over into Illustrator and do like an
Mhm.
image trace on it to vectorize it, it actually does a really good job of it. I don't need to worry about losing a whole bunch of detail or whatever. Whereas with other
Gotcha.
people's work where it's maybe finer lines and a lot of like colors and stuff like that, it doesn't usually take to being converted directly into vector as easily. But for me, I can just sort of drag it over and it doesn't take much extra work to do it that way.
Nice. No, that makes sense. Because yeah, the image trace, it really the source image you're working with is huge. Because like if you have shading, if you have like grain, like any like there's definitely like ones that work really well with that. And there's like mediums that are like that struggle and I don't know, you really can't convert to vector very easily. So with your
Yeah,
line work too, I could totally see this just converting like honestly, you can play with like the paths and curves and all that fun stuff. And I feel like you can really dial it in to what you have here.
Yeah, I mean, like there are times when I'm messing around, or not that I'm messing around, but it's like I'm tweaking what I've already made, or like I have a
Mm-hmm.
drawing that like let's say it's at this level of progress or fidelity or whatever. And like for me, as soon as I decide, like if I'm looking at this piece and I'm like, you know what, I wish that cloud were like, you know, 30 pixels to the right or down, or like I want to change anything essentially that like overlaps in any way, like I'm just redrawing all of it. Like it's
I
not
believe it.
easy for me to do it that way. Whereas if I had it in vector and it was just a matter of like moving these shapes around, it would save me an absolute boatload of time. So again, like there's pros and cons to both ways of doing it. And there are times where I really wish that I could just sort of like drag the elements around a little bit more. But I mean,
I
that could
believe it.
also be solved with me being a little bit more, I don't know, mindful of setting up the document that way or like drawing it in a certain way that wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
such a gigantic pain to mess with afterwards. But it's, you know what? I'm old and I'm
Yeah.
set in my ways, and this is just the way that works for me.
I mean, that's fair. And to set that up with layers in Photoshop gets very tricky and tedious too. Just to be able to have like each of these objects kind of overlapping exactly how you want it, to be able to
Yeah.
drag it around. And I don't know, you spend a lot more time in that prep work, but it can pay off if you do have to mess with the composition.
Yeah.
And just one comment in the chat too is the texture of the brush looks great, is what Raphael is saying. Uh, and Keys is saying, "Oh wow, this is looking amazing, smooth lines and textured!" Exclamation point question mark. Um, yeah, and people are saying it would have taken longer to do this in Illustrator. So I don't know. People are loving seeing the process and just the line work. And even when you zoomed out, you can just see how like the goopiness, as we describe it, it's like in those little sections, just adds so much more just style to it.
Yeah, I can show you a quick little like sort of on off of how it looks with and
Yeah, that'd
without,
be
because
dope.
I think it makes a big difference, right? Like it just kind of fills
Yeah.
everything in. It gives things a nice little extra touch of like shading. Um, but it's an easy thing to do. Again, this is probably something that you could do. You could do like 90% of it just like automated by like blurring it and sharpening it and stuff like that, which I
Mm-hmm.
do actually kind of end up adding on a little bit of a layer of the same after the fact myself. But I don't know. I just kind of like doing it by hand. It gives me a little bit more of a degree of control over it. Um, and I enjoy it. So everyone should try it.
Nice. Well, I think doing it by hand gives it those little tiny like imperfections that like our eyes can like subconsciously pick up on, and it just adds so much to it. Like when you try to just sometimes use stuff with the tools, like it just can feel too rigid or it's just too uniform. And I don't know,
Yeah.
there's something to having like doing it by hand, which is why a lot of people still just draw with pencil, versus trying to use shapes or something, or I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think again that plays into a little bit about what I was saying about working
Mm-hmm.
in Illustrator, right? Where
Yeah.
I think it's just that it is a little bit more rigid and smooth and whatever. Whereas I like to sort of have the imperfections, and like my drawings are absolutely imperfect every time I make them. So I like to use a piece of software that'll kind of pick up on that a little bit,
Nice.
even though I am cheating with quite a bit of the smooth tool here.
That's fair.
I
It is what
gotta.
it is. Yeah, I know. I mean, use the tools that are going to work for your flow.
Exactly. But
Could
yeah, it
we
is just
zoom in
kind of
on
the
one of
easy.
these
Yeah.
lines, if you don't mind? I
Oh,
really just
just
want
to
to see the
jump like
actual
right in.
brush. Yeah, I just want to zoom in like at super close and just
I
kind of
keep
see the
forgetting that
edges of
because
that.
my face is like right up near this iPad, and that's not as close as
No,
everyone's going to see it in the chat. But yeah, it's a nice sort of gritty, chunkier line, um, which is
yeah.
something I like about it. But then you're going to see in a later step that I end up kind of like smoothing it all out, anyways. But I think because it starts with that chunkiness, that once I smooth it, it has a nice sort of aesthetic about it.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, again, that's the. I mean, I use this pen for basically all of the work that I do. This is always my line work uh, brush, which is
Nice.
in shameless plug, the Boring Fans starter pack with retro
Oh yeah.
supply.
But it's worth it. I mean, and then even just looking through your work too, you can see a consistent style across the board. And I think some of that is, like with your illustration style, some of it's with the tools you're using. And it's just, I don't know, I think it lends a lot to your work because it's like when people go to hire you, they kind of know what they're getting versus people who are like more generalist, and it's you have to dial that in sometimes, I feel like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm pretty consistent in terms of my style. Like I do like to push what I'm doing, either in terms of the content or my process or something. Like it changes a little bit from piece to piece, I would say, but
Mhm.
there's certain elements that I don't change too drastically. Like again, I've been using this like pen for forever, and this sort of like different brushes that I use. I've been using for a long time. So those are pretty consistent. And but then maybe like, the layouts change or the content changes
Mhm.
or my general ideas or my general sort of approach
Nice.
ends up changing. Um, just checking the time. Okay, I'll do a little bit more
Yeah,
of
you're
this and
good.
then we'll move on to like probably adding some like halftones and shading and stuff like that.
Dope. Yeah, I was curious how, which we don't need to go into yet, but definitely I'm excited to see kind of your halftone process. Because it's like
Definitely.
for me, it's been hit or miss, like whether I'm using like the effects in Photoshop, whether I'm using like a pre-made texture or
Right.
something. So yeah, it's been hard for me to dial in how to actually effectively use them. So I don't know, I'm excited to learn from your process on all
Of
this too.
course. Happy to show it off.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, if anyone else has any questions for now while I'm still doing this
Yeah.
not too
Uh
heavy on the thinking part of the show, then have at her.
Sounds good. Yeah, in the chat, please drop in. You got any questions, comments, concerns, all that fun stuff. Happy
Or
to
just
address them.
tell us about your day. Tell
Yeah,
us
right?
what's cool where you live. Did
Right?
you
What the
eat
weather's going
anything
on.
weird today? How much
Right?
water have you drank so far today? Should you
I
be
think
drinking water at all?
that's fair.
Yeah, the science is out on whether people should be drinking water, and I think what's important with this poster is that I'm getting the word out there.
It is. Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing. It's yeah, getting
Yeah,
water. It's
you
yeah, drink water. Yeah.
can't have big water telling us how much water we're supposed to be consuming every day.
I know, right?
Instead, you should be getting your science and medical information from a guy drawing on the internet,
Yeah, from
and that's
Behance,
me.
yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds great. Yeah. Especially well, it's like you got your science right here. They're coming from the clouds, they're filling up the cup.
I'm drawing the
That's
science for the. I think I can't make this diagram more clear. Water is just spit coming from clouds, and if you
exactly.
think you should be drinking 8 glasses of that a day, I don't know. I just think it's a little crazy.
That's fair.
Can't we just be
Uh
drinking coffee and
right.
uh, soda? You know?
I do hate to break it to you, but I feel like the basis of a lot of these is water. When you go down to the coffee, it's like in the ground,
Oh,
you
that's
get the
different water
soda,
though. That's
sparkling.
not
That's
that's not
true.
cloud water. I
Okay, yeah, we
don't
don't
do
consider
cloud
that.
water.
It's like processed water and
Yeah, I
yeah.
have to have it like filtered and processed and
Yeah.
yeah, you get it.
So Josh was saying I only had one cup of coffee, which is I'd say is pretty good. And he
How's
kept
he even
saying literally
awake?
only yeah, I know. Like, well, it depends on what time of day it is for you, Joshua. Let us know where you're tuning in from the time too. Because maybe it's first thing in the morning in there, and it's like, that makes
Wow,
sense.
even first thing in the
Maybe,
morning, this guy should be at 3 at least.
right? Wake up, do
Again,
the triple
this is
espresso.
not only an illustration show, but it's a medical advice show. If anyone has any medical questions, drop them in the chat.
Yes.
Happy to answer them.
Yep.
I'm
And
sure
I'll be the disclaimer.
Adobe is happy to assume all liabilities from what I've said on
Yeah.
this
Yep.
chat.
Adobe assumes no
Wonderful.
responsibility for blah, blah, blah. I'll just start doing the
Yeah,
whole disclaimer at the end of everything.
yeah, exactly. You'll be fine.
Oh yeah. Keys is asking too. I'm a bit confused. Has been drawing on a graphic tablet or kind of mouse or something?
So I'm drawing on my iPad.
Okay.
I'm using a piece of software called AstroPad, which essentially just mirrors your iPad and your computer screen. Um,
Oh, that's dope.
yeah, specifically tailored around designers and stuff and people who want to be able to just use their iPad to control what's happening on screen similarly as you would with like a Wacom tablet or whatever.
Yeah. So you're using the Photoshop desktop version kind of projected onto the iPad.
That is exactly correct.
That is pretty cool. Dang.
Yeah, it's super handy. Bunch of nice people over there at AstroPad.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. Uh, so yeah, Z saying I've heard of Adobe Creative Cloud, but is there an Adobe Aqua Cloud? So get
Oh,
some branded clouds up there.
yeah. I guess I hadn't even thought about the connection between the cloud drawing that I'm doing right now and now that I'm working with an Adobe
I know.
Creative Cloud.
It's
it's
a
all
fun.
connected, man. You just have to look.
Yeah, man.
There's meaning behind all of this.
It is. It's big water, dude.
Yeah, that's
So
it. You
question
control it
from
all.
Wade dropped in a thank you, Wade dropped in a question from YouTube. So what resolution dimensions are you working with?
What did I do for this one? I
Or
think I
if not,
made
if you have
this
like a
one.
standard one you usually go with.
I think like what's this saying right now? It's like 2480 by 3100.
Hmm.
It usually depends on the piece and how big I want it to be later. But again, as you'll see in a minute, like because part of my process is usually converting this over to vector anyways, I'm not too particular about the initial one, the initial file or drawing being too huge, because then I can just take the vector and sort of blow it up any which way or any which size.
Nice. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, what do I want to do next here? So I'll show you guys. This is what I did so far by adding all this sort of gloopiness. Um, and it does help, but I'll show you guys what it looks
Hmm.
like with all of it added. So this is once I've added every bit of every last bit of gloopiness to
Nice.
the piece. And as you can see, it just oops, just like adds a nice, why is that not? Oh, there we go. Gives it a little bit more, I don't know, I don't think warmth is the word, but it fills things in nicely, gives it a little bit more dimension to it.
Hmm.
Um, and I do that on pretty much all my pieces. And
Nice. I
then
love it.
usually the last step that I do here is to start adding in some of the halftones. So we can start messing around with that.
Dope. I do love like this step that you just did is a step I wouldn't have thought of. Where you kind of smooth those edges and stuff, and just yeah, the amount of style, like the amount of just extra, like I don't even know what it's adding, but it just adds. It's just so much cooler. It gives it like that vintagey vibe, and
Yeah.
yeah, no, I just love that. That's like I wouldn't have thought of that, so that's super dope to see.
Yeah, I don't even know how I think I just sort of noticed some degree of that being added to other people's work or to other like older pieces that I really enjoy and just thought like what if I
Hmm.
just did it manually? What would that look like? And now I know. Now
Nice.
it
Yeah,
happens
it
in
worked.
all my stuff. Yeah, it worked. Cool. Yeah. So next, I'll just start messing around with some halftones just to add some proper shading to all of this.
Sweet.
It's usually, again, this is one that varies piece to piece. And usually in this phase, I'm thinking a little bit about the next step later, which will be like how I want it to be colored in, because do I want to, do I want like the colors that I'm going to use later to take over for a lot of it- communicating like shade values and stuff like that? Or do I want to do that straight up just with like a halftone brush and that'll show things that are dark and then it'll be sort of bare bones in terms of color. So
Gotcha.
this one I'll sort of approach in a way as if I'm going to use like a lot of color in the final piece. So I usually just am like pretty bare bones about how much of the halftones I throw into it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, this phase is like pretty quick, pretty light. We can probably end up just showing like this entire phase of it because it's not a whole lot to it. But yeah, this
Dope.
brush I'm using again
Oh
is
wow.
from the same starter pack that I use. I feel like when I draw this stuff out on the tablet, I use a version of this where the halftone dots are like a little bigger and a little chunkier,
Yeah.
but still looks pretty sweet like this. I'm just gonna make I keep
No,
forgetting
it
that
does.
you guys aren't nearly as like zoomed in
Oh, you're
as I
good.
am with this stuff. But
And even once you started to add those in, it just like it took me a second to see where you were working, and I was like, holy cow, that it just looks so natural, and like so good. Like where you're putting it too. I love that. And using the halftones with a brush too, that makes sense. Like you have a lot of control over where you're using it.
yeah, I think it just like again comes down to just adding elements to it that are like that don't feel like they're too perfect. Like something would
Hmm.
be if you just sort of did it by putting in like a straight line or like just a perfect curve that added the brush or something like that, like you would if you were in, for example, Illustrator or something like that.
Yeah. Alessandro is saying this looks great. Raphael saying nice work. So they're all loving it.
Oh
Jennifer has
man,
a
these
question.
everyone's so nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
When do you know you were done? When you were just adding because you can't stop sort of deal? Question mark. So I think it's just more personal experience on the bottom. But yeah, when do you know you're done? Because like sometimes you can get carried away and just keep adding more and more and more, and you can also overdo it at a certain
Right.
point.
I mean, I think that's sort of the age-old question when you're making art generally, right? Is like, when is it done?
Mhm.
When can you just let go and either accept that it's not perfect or it's not what you want it to be, or you hit a point where you're just adding way too much stuff and now it's like it's cluttered. The last phase where I was sort of adding, filling in all the lines and stuff, that one's pretty straightforward to me because in my mind I'm just like, okay, any of the hard edges, I want to get rid of all the hard edges and that's my only objective. So I'm done when all the hard edges are gone. Whereas with this phase, with adding halftones, there's definitely, I find like a fine line for me where like I feel like I've added enough and then I've added something nice to it versus I feel like I've just thrown halftones all over the piece and then it's like way more messier for me having done it. So
Yeah.
usually it's sort of a mix of adding a bunch of stuff and then, later on refining a little bit.
Gotcha. I have a little bit of a harder question, if that's cool, because that's
Uh-oh.
kind of popping to my head.
Yeah.
Uh, so do you ever get any of your artwork kind of screen printed?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I've got like a bit of an art show coming up soon here in Toronto and I need a bunch of pieces. So as I was making this, I was thinking like maybe this could be one that ends up getting like screen printed.
Yeah,
So the answer is
that'd be
yes.
cool. So the follow up to that is, do you ever? I've ran into it before where you can need like halftones, maybe a certain, and maybe I'm messing this up completely, but like I feel like the halftones might need to be a certain size compared to like the screen they're kind of printing on. I don't know if you've ever ran into issues or know any more about that, because maybe it's not a
Yeah,
thing.
I don't get it's funny like I mean actually not sorry, I'll back up. But
Yeah, you're good.
a lot of my work, like so when I'm having like t-shirts made or tote
Mhm.
bags or any kind of apparel, it's usually screen printed. Um and all of my work has these halftones in it. And I've never had any issues with the people that I work with saying that, the halftones were
Nope.
too small or that they won't translate properly or whatever. I think because usually the halftones that I'm using are usually pretty big and dense, so
Yeah.
it's not hard for it to pick it up. Whereas I'd imagine if you have some of the really fine sort of halftones, like I'm not sure if this would be more fine or yeah, like these ones are a little lighter, so maybe that's harder
Hmm.
for like a screen printer to pick up. But yeah, for my purposes, it doesn't usually come up as being much of an issue.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense because especially these are like very large halftones too. So I can see that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Nice. And in the chat too, let us know if you guys got any questions. Want to know anything else process wise, anything about Ben? Yeah.
Just tell us whatever's on your mind. We're just here to
Yeah, right.
talk.
So I
The
did see in your bio that you have a dog and a cat, if that's
I have a
correct.
dog and a cat. I think you
Nice.
can let's see if I can do this without screwing up my whole setup. This guy's yeah,
He's
being very
chilling on the
helpful right
couch.
now. Yeah, he
Jeez.
just passed out. That's
Wow.
his
So yeah, that's why I have a dog and I have him in the other room right now because like there's no way he would leave me alone during the live stream.
oh
So like
really?
he just looks so chill though. I love
Oh,
that.
that's him pretty much all day long.
Oh man, I'm jealous.
Oh,
Now,
it's
are you more
great.
of a dog person, cat person, or do you have to like ride the line since you have
I
both?
mean, I have one of each, so like I
Okay,
can't just
can't.
be saying out loud who's my favorite.
Especially if they're listening
Um,
too. You got your
yeah.
backup on the couch right there.
I mean, the cat woke me up like several times last night, and the dog did not. So that certainly plays into me picking favorites in a big way.
Yeah, it's fair. Can we ask their names too, if you
The
don't mind?
dog is Alfie, and the cat is Woody.
Nice. No, that's fun.
Yeah, yeah, they're cool. They're good buds.
Nice. I love how you're putting the halftones in the middle too for that section versus the edge.
Yeah, usually something like, I'm trying to imply that these are like mountains or landscapes, so showing that there's like some texture on that in the background. I don't have a whole lot of like good rhyme or reason
It's fair.
behind like how I add those ones. Like usually I'll add something like, in the if I can make it look right, like just sort of
Hmm.
to show that this is like this part's just sort of some dirt or whatever. I don't
Yeah,
really
it's
love how that turned out, but
I
um
get it. Some dirt, grass, texture just implies kind of something without having to actually illustrate it.
yeah,
I feel like.
yeah, just a little hint.
Yeah.
How are we for time here? We got like 40 minutes left. We're
Yeah, we're
laughing.
looking
We're
pretty
good.
good. I think, yeah, a
Cool.
good 40 minutes or so. My math isn't great, but
I would say it's
I'd say
about
right.
40 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's spot on.
This is the drawing,
Oh, yeah,
medical advice, and math tutoring Adobe Live session. If
exactly.
anyone
From
has
the
any,
creative Aqua Cloud.
yeah, exactly. If anyone has needs help with their math homework,
Yep.
drop it in the comments. We'll be
Oh,
happy to
man.
help.
Yeah.
Guaranteed correct answers.
Yeah. It'll be one of those things where you get the correct answer and the wrong answer, and you get to choose which one you want to go with.
Yeah,
It's that
exactly.
classic age old riddle.
100%.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, that cloud is just the face and stuff. Once you have the halftones too, it just comes out
yeah,
looking super dope.
just gives you a little indication of like where the light's coming from and tells you a little bit more about what's happening
Yeah.
in that made up world over there.
Nice.
Um, yeah, just a few more little bits of it, and then I think we're good to move on to the
Dope.
next phase, in
No, sounds
which
good.
we'll move over to Illustrator.
So another question from YouTube. Thank you, Wade.
Hmm.
Have you ever done a portrait of Alfie and or Woody? Or Woody?
Uh, I mean, I've drawn like a bunch of dogs and cats that I think probably like resemble them enough. I'll have
Okay.
like you know friends or not even just friends, but like people asking to like hire me to draw. Like they're like I would love to have like a dog portrait or a cat portrait or something for my pets,
Yeah, that's fun.
which is cute and fun and nice. But like I'm so painfully aware that there's no way I'd be able to capture their likeness in a way that would
Yeah.
resemble their pets, and
It's a lot of pressure.
yeah, I
Like,
don't think I could do it. I don't think that's like
yeah.
my strong suit unless they're cool with something that will look literally nothing like the animals they're trying to honor.
No, that's fair. Because same thing with like people are doing like I imagine like one of this like I'm trying to think how to word this. One of the drawing classes I had, the professor was like a caricature artist. And I just
Hmm.
imagine being at like one of those amusement parks or something where like people walk up, sit down, and then you do the portrait and the caricature of them. And it's just like for me that's
I
scary. You
could
have to find the
never.
line of
Oh my
like
God.
how
No, no, no.
realistic versus like how mean it kind of is,
Oh
you
man.
know?
There's
Yeah.
this really great TikTok. I don't remember the name of it. Maybe someone in the comments will know it, where it's
Mhm.
every TikTok is this like caricature artist in I think he's in like Vegas or something, and people sit down for a caricature with him and he just draws the meanest, most like awful, like he just like
Yeah, I think I've
drags.
seen
I
it.
mean, they all know he's not just like they all know what they're
Yeah.
in for and that he's gonna like just like really exaggerate every feature and like oh man, they're intense. I don't think like
Oh,
I couldn't do it. I would never I would see myself through that lens like from then on, and it would really
yeah.
mess with my self-perception, I think.
Oh.
I would
And
never recover.
yeah, and I know exactly which TikToks you're talking about, and I don't know what the profile or anything, but I've seen them, and it's like it'll be a
Yeah.
couple just sitting there, and you'll kind of see his art before they see it too, and you're just
Yeah. Oh man.
it's brutal too on like how
It's
much he
so
exaggerates
unkind.
some of the stuff. Yeah, like oh that would be so hard to do. Like I would just yeah, oh
I
man,
wouldn't be able to
not even
handle it.
yeah, and just the reactions of someone if like I don't know, it's like, what they just start crying or something, and I'm like, oh god,
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be rough.
Yeah. Wouldn't be able to do it. All right. So we're looking pretty good in terms of adding all the halftones here. So
Yeah,
just to give people an idea of how it looked, before or even before I added all those extra,
yeah, I was about to say it'd be cool
there's
to
all
see
the extra
line work.
lines. Oh wait, that's a sketch. I gotta be smarter with naming my layers. Where'd the okay, yeah, there we go.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, here was the sketch that we started with.
Yeah, the character really changed too when you see the face.
Yeah. Yeah, again, like this sketch is never anything super set in stone, and the best time to mess with it is as you're working through it. So
Hmm.
that's where we started. Oh boy, that's not what I wanted to do. That's the lines before all the gloop and then adding
Yeah,
all the gloop
nice.
and then some halftones. So that's sort of what you end up with. And this ends up being the basis for what I work on next. So
Dope.
usually what I do next, um, I'll make a new file here really quick, just to keep it separate. Um, 4:5 image ratio. Um, just to keep this real simple, I'll just flatten this entire
Mm,
image. I'll
it's good
grab
to
everything from here,
nice.
and then um, so I have this little action that I use. I genuinely don't remember exactly where I got this one from.
Mhm.
It's called retro press. I'll show you quickly what it does. Um, but this almost does even more of
Whoa.
the sort of gloop,
Yeah.
which which is cool. It kind of messes with my halftones a little bit in this case. It's weird. It doesn't normally do it that as heavily as that. So I have like a there's like a light, heavy, medium. If I figure how heavy it goes, like kind of nuts, and I lose all my detail. Maybe if I do light
Yeah,
this time,
that's
but
interesting.
essentially all it's doing is doing like a it's doing a Gaussian blur, and then it does a smart sharpen a couple of times. Actually, maybe I could even
Gotcha.
just show
And
really
a question
quickly what
from
it
Wade
does.
too. He's asking me what I'm chugging over here. So in these classic yerba mates, they're not a sponsor for
Ooh,
today's video, but if they want to be, that'd be pretty cool.
yeah, hit us up.
I drink way too many of these, way too much caffeine. Switch me off coffee, but I don't think it's better. So
Oh, that's definitely not better.
yeah, no, I know.
Oops, don't want that. Let's see here. Blur, Gaussian blur. Then yeah, go to like 5 pixels
Ooh,
typically. Um, that might be way too much. We'll find out. And then I'll just do a smart sharpen. I mess with the smart sharpen settings a little bit so that I get it just right. But in this case, yeah, so that's essentially what that action is doing on its own.
gotcha. It,
Um, just gives it a nice sort of like I find that like when I take already what I have that's a little bit gloopy and then I add this to it, which just rounds it out a little bit, makes it a little bit softer versus it was this before.
yeah,
So nice and soft like this, and then I know what I was doing. Give me 1 second
yeah,
here.
no worries. That's cool though. So you're
Um,
kind of like blurring it and then kind of sharpening it a little bit just to kind of amplify the gloopiness.
a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a good way of putting it. Just
I'm
gonna
gonna laugh.
grab.
I'm sure there's some international people that are googling gloopy gloopiness, and so
I
that's fun.
I I can't vouch for what the internet's gonna show them when they look that up.
That's fair.
Now I just can't see this at all. Am I losing my mind? Um,
Sorry, excuse me.
that's super weird. All right, let's see if I
What are you
can
looking
just
for?
just for some reason when I copy it over, it's not showing up. Okay, it works
Gotcha.
fine if I just do it right in here. Um, yeah, see that? That looks better than how I was doing it before. So it's just a little softer. I wonder if I even
Mhm.
do the medium on it, how that'll look, or if it's too much.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
Because
so
like the
this is around usually the sweet spot that I try to hit with it. Um, so I think that's looking pretty good in terms of how much it softens it up. And then
yeah.
I go over into Illustrator. Oh, that's
Ooh,
a
spoiler.
spoiler. Um, and I pull it into Illustrator. And like I was saying, I'm pretty lucky that the default settings for image trace for
Mhm.
me works super well for vectorizing this. So this is still obviously a raster right now because I just brought it in, but just click on ignore color down here
Nice.
and then expand. And then as you'll see, like magic, we've
Yeah,
got,
and just so easy too.
yeah, it's all
Nice.
vectorized. You end up with like some hard little shapes like this guy over here.
Mhm.
Um, if it's a bigger project, I'll usually like go in and manually fix those and make sure that there aren't any like super hard edges or anything, especially if it's like a drawing that's going to be blown up really big or something like that.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, I either don't worry about it too much, or you can even go in and use the smooth tool, and that'll give you just enough change to smooth out all those edges, which is cool. Um,
Gotcha. And so usually in image trace, you just kind of go default settings for the most part. Because I know they're pretty great. But do you ever play around with the
um,
sliders in the advanced kind of portion, or not really?
I don't really just because I don't have to. Like it doesn't make a
Yeah.
difference for my stuff. For stuff
Nice.
that's more detailed, obviously, you have to get into the weeds a
Hmm.
little bit more. But with mine, it's just like it just gives me what I need.
Nice.
But yeah,
No,
as you
that's
can
dope.
see, you do the smooth tool just a little bit, and then you don't have to worry about any hard edges anymore.
Yeah.
And then yeah, now you got your vectorized piece over here.
Sweet.
And
I
then
definitely love vector artwork because, like, I know everything I do, like, end result is vector just because it's so much easier to work with in the long run. You can
right.
scale it, you can get crazy with it, you can, yeah. So I don't know, but it's cool seeing how you start out kind of that pixel process and then kind of get here too.
Yeah, and like I was saying before too, I'm talking all about how I love that I have such a like a grungy, gritty
Hmm.
brush, but then the final product of what I'm actually showing off is like very, very smoothed out. But
Yeah, no, it is funny
again,
how that
just
happens.
setting my ways. That's all it is.
It's fair.
Um, but yeah, usually what I do from here is that I start jumping into messing around with type. Um,
Sweet.
Sometimes I have an idea of what I want the poster to say. Sometimes this is when I decide what I want the poster to say.
Hmm.
Um, I have like a decent idea of where I want to go with this one, but I'll just start with
Dope.
Myriad Pro, the default font.
Fun
Um,
stuff. And just everyone in the chat too. Appreciate you guys tuning in. It's nice to see Jack, Grace, Keys, everyone. If you got any questions, please send them over. We are about 30 minutes left on the stream as well. So we're getting to the fun part, messing with some type. We're in Illustrator. And eventually we'll be going back into Photoshop too. So yeah. And if you just joined, definitely check out the replay as well to get caught up. Yeah. It's water. Sorry. I
I
was
don't know
thinking of a
why I
SpongeBob
always,
episode.
yeah, I don't know why I always like to just start with like Myriad, which always just looks terrible for whatever I'm working on, but it just maybe because I always feel like it'll only get better from there.
Right? You can, yeah, it
Um,
just gets leveled up. No offense, whoever invented Myriad, but
oh, I'm sure
it is what it is.
they've tuned in. They're in the live chat.
I
They're gonna
know.
be pissed. The inventor of
Yeah, I know
Myriad.
they're seeing this right now and they're stoked you're using it. And so once you change it, it's gonna,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I wanted to have a small text up top,
nice.
big guy water down below, and then have a little bit of accompanying text at the bottom. So again, the poster being about in defense of why I don't drink enough water, which I think is
Hmm.
important for me to have a defense for. And so I would
Definitely.
I would drink more water if sorry, I'm just closing this AstroPet stuff here.
Hmm.
I would drink more water if oh my god, I keep selecting the wrong text. If it weren't so gross to think about.
Nice. Yeah, that's funny. And Keys is saying kind of like the result looks like a print scanned back in. I think
Yeah,
we're talking
I
about
mean, I guess that's
illustration.
a little bit that's sort of what the process ends up being anyways, right? Because
Hmm.
I'm sort of taking it and passing it through all these different layers of like I have the brush and then I pass it through adding all the gloopiness to it and then I add all the the blur and then the sharpening to it. I think that makes it feel as if it's been like scanned a bunch of times or whatever.
No, I
Um,
think so. It gives you those little artifacts and like little mistakes and stuff that's
yeah,
just makes it feel authentic.
totally.
And Wade
Um,
saying it's too late. He already posted and tagged the creator of Myriad. So
oh no, that
yeah.
all
So
right.
yikes.
Lawsuit incoming. Slandered
Yikes.
him.
Yep.
Slandered him in the live
Guess
chat.
he'll have to keep it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rewind.
So yeah, now that I have I usually just use that to like to mess around with the actual words that I want to use, but obviously
Hmm.
this does not look how I want it to look as a final product. So then I just start messing around with a whole bunch of different copies of this with different type. So
Nice.
pop into here.
Yeah. Do you have
I'm
any
like,
like tools you use to kind of find typefaces outside of kind of Adobe? Or maybe like include like maybe Adobe fonts to font. I don't know if
yeah, I mean
like
all those for
okay.
sure. I find I'm so bad at like there's so many different like typefaces and stuff that I love, and then I'll just have the worst time trying to like remember which ones I want to use, and I'm not
It's fair.
organized about keeping them together. So much of it for me literally is like pulling open this menu and just like going through the 6 billion fonts that are in here, and then if none of those
Hmm.
work, then I'll see what Adobe Fonts has lately that I could mess with, or other type foundries that I'm into. Um,
Nice.
I use a lot of I like Kern Club. They make a lot of cool fonts. Usually
Yeah,
if
I'm
I
not
want
familiar with them.
if I'm making something that's a little more like ridiculous or like this one or something that's a little
Hmm.
more playful, I find they have a lot of good fonts for that stuff. This one,
Nice.
Close
That works pretty
Encounter,
well.
gets a lot of play from me.
Yeah, it fits well with your illustration style and like the
Yeah, like
gloopiness going
it.
on.
Yeah, I mean, literally the version of this one is called Inked because they have like a regular version of it, and then there's like an inked, or sorry, that's the regular version, and then an inked version. So it's almost like exactly what I end up doing with my work. So I usually find that it fits pretty well.
No,
Um,
it's dope. I was curious too if you ever go into type and kind of add the gloopiness to like a typeface. Like if you
yeah,
had water
totally.
and kind of round out those corners or something, or I don't
Yeah,
know.
I do stuff like that too. Almost with
Nice.
all of them. Like if I grabbed, I don't know, whatever this font is here,
Yeah.
Calfine,
Mm.
um, and then do like a, a trace on that so that it's just a raster now and it's not the type. And then you can literally just go
Hmm.
into like path, smooth, and then crank that up a little bit.
Gotcha. Oh yeah,
So
yeah, you can see
then
the corners kind of
yeah,
like rounding out a little bit.
yeah, and you can do that with like literally any typeface that you want. And I feel like that usually ends up suiting my work a little bit better. Um,
Nice.
so yeah, I mean, actually, I don't even like hate this typeface. It's kind of
I
nice,
know, right? It's
but
kind of nice
I'm
like
going to,
contrast.
yeah, I don't know if it's exactly what I'm going for, but I
Yeah.
like it. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I'll mess with some more.
Ooh,
This
that
one I've
one's
kind
pretty
of
cool
liked
too.
lately, which is cool. The only thing is it takes up a lot of sort of
Yeah, it's
vertical
yeah, it's very
space.
tall.
Yeah, which would be fine if I wasn't going to add this like bottom text here,
Hmm.
but I am, so I need to.
Nice. And I know there's always
Um,
that rule of like don't stretch or like warp type, you know?
that's a fake rule.
It is, but that's what
Yeah,
I'm also thinking too. It's like when it's a typeface like this that's already like a little gloopy and wonky, you know, it's
yeah.
like you can get away with it a little more than if it's
Yeah, do
like
you think I'm gonna like
period.
if I make it like this or something, I don't think
Mhm.
anyone's gonna see it and be like, it's not what it's supposed to be. Or if I like
Exactly.
stretch
But if
it
you did
out a
that with
little,
Myriad, I think people would be like,
well,
"What's
then I would
going
get
on
another
there?"
angry email from the
From Dr.
inventor
Myriad.
of Myriad.
Yeah.
Never ends with that
Exactly.
guy. I'm
I
always
know.
hearing
He's
from him.
just always. It's like he already got
Yeah,
like the default space. You think that'd be enough for him?
it's
It's
not.
like
It's
when
never enough.
U2 got the placement on iTunes. I don't know if you remember
Oh
that.
my
Whenever
God. When it was on everyone's iPod,
yes, and so that I think that's
it was a
Myriad
nightmare.
for the fonts. No offense,
I
Myriad.
can't think of a worse
Again,
band to end up in my iPod
I
without my
know,
permission.
I know. It's
Maybe Red
brutal.
Hot Chili Peppers. That'd be second worst.
Ooh,
Yeah, throw some shade.
yeah, right.
Um,
Ooh, that's funny. I don't think I listened to him that much, but yeah, I feel
and
like
yet you're
someone's gonna get
still.
offended.
I hope they do. I
Yeah,
hope people think critically of their supporting that band.
yeah, I know. Oh, that's funny.
I've been really liking this font a bunch lately, and I think it's sort of wide enough that it'll give me some space down below
Yeah,
if I want to add some text. Um, Probably tighten it up a little bit too.
yeah. I like
And
that
make
leg of
sure.
the R right there. That little curvature on the bottom gives it
Yeah,
some personality too, which is
yeah,
dope.
I like that about it a lot.
Hmm.
Bring these in a little closer together.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I
yeah,
definitely
I'll
think
give
that kind of
these.
helps that tracking a little bit. Because that W is
Yeah,
just so wide, but I think it works when you have it like right up against that A. Just those angles lined up is really nice. I
yeah.
think.
Just get the spacing all set here.
Oh yeah.
That's feeling okay.
Do you ever halftone type?
Like just add some shading to it and stuff.
Yeah, or a little texture or like
A
some
little bit like maybe
shadow or something.
if I were to have it like if it were the outlines instead, I would
Hmm.
probably, add something around the corners or something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, all sort of just situational, right?
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
I might even see if this above font works for it as well. Let's grab that. Ooh, there we go. Give that one a little breathing room. That feels fun.
I think
I
yeah,
don't
I
mind
like that.
that.
It's very legible too. It has like some nice weight to it.
Mhm. And I think probably for the font beneath,
Hmm.
um, for this guy down here, Probably use that same typeface, but without without it being capitalized and all huge.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so it still feels in the same family and consistent without it being like identical.
Yeah, exactly.
Tight. And in the chat too, if you guys got any questions, jump in. Now's the time to ask them. So let us know
Now's the
what you're
time.
curious about. Yeah, I would totally drink more water if it weren't so gross to think about.
There you go.
Nice.
Just here to make people think critically, like should I be
Yeah,
drinking water? It's hard to say.
100%. Because at first, like, I was totally thinking this, like, yeah, drink more water. But then it's like, wait a second.
But then hold on,
That's not what we're talking about.
isn't that just clouds spitting? I don't
Yeah,
know.
right? Yeah. You also hear it's
Yeah,
like recycled dinosaurs, and I don't know, the water is just recycled through the earth and cycles through.
yeah.
There's a whole water cycle. That's a
I don't
whole
know.
another, homework thing.
Not safe to be eating or drinking anything out there.
That's fair. Unless you got one of those life straws or one of those filters. If
Yeah,
you're familiar with those,
exactly.
people like, yeah, they'll have those water filters and they'll just drink out of a pond or something. I don't know. I've seen those little commercials and
That
that's,
seems
yeah,
like I don't know. I hope it
yeah,
works, or else they might be
yeah.
in trouble.
That seems really gross when you think about it. If we're
Yep.
going to go back to this, that'd be a second poster illustration of that. It's
Yeah.
just someone filtering that water.
Right. Um, I mean, I could sit here and debate which font I want to use for easily the rest of this stream or the rest of the
Yeah,
afternoon, but that's probably not productive for anyone. So we're just gonna pretend like I'm perfectly happy with how this is looking. We're just gonna go with these. Um,
sounds good. I
just
think it works pretty well, but I agree. Sometimes you can get lost and just start going and type way too long until you find that perfect one, or you never do and you're just frustrated. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Like I said before too, I can like smooth out
Mm,
the type a little bit just so it matches the rest of it a little better.
yeah.
Let me make sure this lines up here too.
No, Josh was saying, I love to drink water, and now I'm feeling a bit traumatized.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad that we're here to make people think and we're making them see things in a different perspective. And I think that's such an important part of art, you
It
know.
is,
So
you're communicating
my
your
work here
message.
is done.
Exactly. As long as you change Joshua's life to drink less water,
And I
you did,
have.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
doing the good mission, down with big water.
Yep. All right. So giving these a little bit of inkiness to them. Um, all right, let's start messing around with what it might look like if I colored this guy in.
Dope.
Um,
And just keep in mind, we're down to about like 20 minutes, I'd say, maybe 15, 20 minutes.
what are we,
But I
12?
think
I
we're
think
feeling pretty
we're
good.
17 minutes. Yeah. So
Yeah. See, your math is on
again,
point.
again, like I put it out there. If we need help with the
Yeah.
math homework while we're here, I'm here for it. Um, yeah, again, like color is a thing that, if font stuff takes me forever, then color I could spend like weeks on, but we'll
Yeah.
just try and do it nice and quick and dirty, just so
Tight.
that we have something done and then I can show you what comes next. Um, Especially if I have something where like I'm gonna want all the clouds to be white.
Mm,
And that won't really show up if I'm not using a background that isn't white. So starting off with some sort of color that will give them a nice like contrast once I start adding the white in is probably a good way to go.
nice. And,
Um,
and the color almost feels like a paper texture too, a bit, which is kind of
yeah,
nice.
exactly, which is what I'm going to go for later on. So it all kind of plays
Nope.
into it. I kind of worry sometimes that I default to this type of color too often,
It's
and then
funny.
it becomes too easy or whatever. But that's just what I'm doing for now. And then yeah, I'll just start going into the old live paint bucket tool here, which is K button, and then I
Sweet.
just start clicking the colors in.
Nice.
Nothing to it.
Super quick and easy. And we have some controversy going in the chat. We have Paco, who's kind of
Oh
on the
no.
hydro side, saying water for life. And
Wow.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, like check his bank statements and see where his paychecks are coming from.
Right.
Try
He's
and tell
paying
me
out.
that big water played no part in him making those comments.
That's
Refuse to
true.
believe it.
That's right. That's why we're drinking,
They find it every
teas and
time I'm on a
stuff. And
live stream, someone from that industry comes in and starts to try and push their agenda. But I'm telling you right
that's true.
now, You see it right here in front of you. This is where that water's coming from, and
Hmm.
think twice before you drink it.
That's true. And I feel like most of the live streams I've seen here, they're all drinking water. Like, I don't know if that's just something we're picking up on
Yeah.
now or
People see this and they're like, that's water he's drinking. And I tell you, it's not water.
not going to tell us what it is, though.
Nope, but wouldn't catch me dead drinking water, that's for sure.
Yep.
All right, so now we got a nice little blue going for all the water parts.
Yeah.
Um, that's looking all right. I should probably add some white to the white of his eyes over here.
Nice.
The color palette I'd kind of tossed together ahead of time, or I mean, rather that this is one that I just sort of work with a bunch,
Hmm.
um, because this is actually also available in that same um, starter kit that I put together with Retro Supply. So they
Nice.
also provide like a little color palette starter as well, and I end up working with it a whole bunch because what can I say? It's really well done.
Yeah. And color's hard. Like, it
It
feels
can
like
be,
that should
yeah.
be easy, but like, that's something I struggle with. Like, I've used the kind of some of the generative AI tools in Illustrator now for recolor artwork. And then, like, I don't know, a lot of times you'll go into like color theory where people are using, actual like on the color wheel and different types of color theory to map out how they're doing it. Honestly, I took a workshop about like a month ago with Josh Lewis, who's like a children's illustrator, and it was all
Okay.
about color. And there's just so much to it that you don't realize, and especially when you see a work of art, it's like, wow, it's beautiful, but you don't realize that there's like a whole color theory mapped out behind it and like why they're using
Yeah.
those colors sometimes. It's
People
like
people
wild.
put a lot of thought and consideration in that stuff. Um, and yeah, sometimes it's tough to put just the right palette together.
Yeah.
Um,
Question from Susie: where does the inspiration come from for a concept like this?
I mean, we kind of dug it into it at the start of the chat, but
Hmm.
honestly, for me, I just thought, all right, I want to make a poster. I want to just sort of have some fun with it. What's something that I need to hear right now? And that was that I just need to be drinking more water and staying hydrated. And
Hmm.
and then I just got weird with it. So the
Yeah,
inspiration is find something you want to hear, see if you can make it weirder, and then see where it lands you. And this is
love it.
sometimes where you end up.
Yeah. Well, when you really look at where water comes from, it's just deep dive in the history of it and
Just follow the money.
100%. Speaking of which, too, Paco was talking in the chat. Definitely not a big part of definitely not a part of Big Water. Just here to solicit a hydro plan for $9.99 per day.
Oh
So if you
my
want a
God. See,
subscription
you
for
can't, it's
water,
not responsible to be reading these comments out loud. They're pushing
yeah,
their product, they're pushing their own agenda.
yep,
This is
classic Paco,
ridiculous.
just trying to push his water plan on us.
Once again, we've been infiltrated.
100%.
Um,
So yeah, then the chat's just talking about sparkling or stilled, and so we're
oh
just
wow.
deep diving water at the moment. So
Nice.
yeah, fun
I'm
stuff.
glad it got people
Good,
thinking.
100%.
I'm feeling kind of whatever about these colors so far, but we're running out of time.
Yeah, no,
You know
you're
what?
good.
I'm gonna try it one more time with a different bunch of swatches that I have.
Sweet.
Um, and let's see where this lands me here.
Hmm.
So I usually try to do one that's like very colored in, um, or like more colorful, uses like a wider palette, and then I'll do another one where it's just sort of stripped down to only kind of emphasizing like the key parts of it. So I would only maybe emphasize just the water and like maybe just the sky or whatever.
No, that makes sense.
But in this case, yeah, I don't know. Work in progress. Let's see.
Yeah.
Um,
And Wade saying he hasn't heard from Paco in weeks, and now all of a sudden Ben might be onto something with the water.
yeah.
Yep. And Susie's dropping in triple filter from Starbucks only.
Okay.
So it's
Interesting.
good. And just yeah, if anyone's got any other questions, throw them in now. It would be a good time. We're getting down to kind of last 10 minutes of the stream as well. So
Yep.
yeah, don't miss it. Let's get those questions while we got them. Ooh.
So much.
Do you the question here, do you prefer color or no color posters?
Oh, I would say almost all of mine have like some degree of color in them. Um, But some of them look great black and white. Like if I throw this onto a poster, give it some
Hmm.
texture and put it out there in the world, I can feel pretty happy about that too.
Yeah, like I could see
Um,
it just as a one color like tote bag or something would be super cool.
Totally. Yeah. Doesn't always need to have color. But again, that
Hmm.
when we were talking before about like considerations that I have when I'm sort of adding the halftones in, like if I know that I'm going to make a piece that doesn't have much color in it, then I'm going to lean on the halftones more to imply shades and to imply what certain things are, right?
No, that makes sense. And Josh saying, I want to open a water bar and import water from all over the world.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I'm
This
curious
is,
the flavor profiles, the taste, the color,
man,
yeah, the
we're
logistics of it.
we're changing lives, we're changing career paths for
Hmm.
people here. We're doing it all
Exactly.
today on the stream.
Oh, 100%. I'm sure Paco's behind the scenes orchestrating a lot of it,
Oh, as
getting that big
always,
water product placement going on.
nothing changes.
Yep. And Wade's asking, Ben, if you had to make an all new poster right now, what would it be? Go. So it's a brand new poster. You just had to scrap it and you had 10 minutes.
And I need like a new concept and everything
Yep. Or I mean, or you can stick around water, if you want.
around water.
Yeah, I'd say around water. I think keeping the same wheelhouse.
I would make a poster for Josh's water restaurant, I think. Just give
Love
him the
it.
little boost that he needs to get the business
I
going.
love it. The water from around the world. It's just like an Epcot or like a, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's I love it.
exactly.
Nice. I'm liking these colors of the green and the like light blue cyan kind of going
Yeah, I'm
on.
kind of having some fun with it. And then like I end up adding a lot of effects and stuff to it as well. So it's oh
Mhm.
wow, okay, that's not
Cool.
what I
That was
meant.
the effect.
Jeez, what am I doing here? Yeah, so that by the time I end up with my final product, the colors usually end up getting a little mixed around anyways and sort of take on a life of their own. So
Gotcha.
I don't always feel too um I don't know, too married to any specific one color.
Hmm.
And at this point we're just trying to move quickly now, right?
Yeah, and about 3-ish minutes or so, we'll kind of give a recap of what we got going
Oh,
on
okay.
here.
All right.
So yeah, so we're in the sprint mode right now.
We
No
absolutely
pressure.
are. Let's see how quickly I can color something in and then throw
Sweet.
some filters on it. I don't know
Dope.
if we'll end up getting to this guy over here. Maybe we will.
And no worries, too. Honestly, it's crazy how fast these streams will fly by, too, once you kind of get in the zone and start doing it.
Absolutely. What else can we do here?
Nice.
Maybe he's wearing a blue shirt because he's such a water guy.
Oh, yeah. Just hardcore water.
I don't know how much that skin tone will really stand out, but
I think it works. Or at least helps.
yeah, this is starting to look like something.
Yeah. And the whole chat
Um,
is blowing up with everyone saying about Joshua's business plan, how it's going to be good. Someone's talking about bringing him some Icelandic water, I guess.
oh,
So,
see, that'd be one of the first ones I would want to taste. I picture
right?
that as a place that, they got mountains, they got
Right. Ice,
streams,
probably.
a lot of I hear there's ice.
Yeah.
Oh, I just turned on my Google somehow. That's cool.
Oh, that's funny. They said a
Um,
certain keyword.
I heard. I guess so. All right, we have like a minute, so I'm just gonna
Yep.
throw some filters on it just so we can see what it would look like. Even though, let's at least get this
Sounds good.
guy a hair color. I don't
Nice.
know.
No, I think
All
it's good because
right,
it's good to show the
here's the
process too. Even if it's like we didn't get all the colors and stuff, people will understand too. It's like I don't know. A lot of this takes more time than what we have here.
yeah.
A lot of the time.
So let's bring it over here to Photoshop and
Nice. Back into Photoshop.
and I'll just throw a
Yeah.
quick little texture on it. And again, I'm just gonna plug that if you get the texture
Mhm.
pack or the starter pack that I was talking about, that it comes with all that or a whole bunch of these textures if you want to use them.
Nice. I gotta
Just
look into that after
so
this
you
too.
know. Yeah. So this one's called Hot Press. So let's duplicate that, bring it over to piece over here. So you can see it just gives a little something to it. A little bit of paper.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that's what because I couldn't really see it on the first screen. But like, can you zoom in there a little
yeah,
more? If you
yeah,
don't mind.
totally.
Yeah, that's nice. It just adds that little like I
A
don't know,
little
just that.
something makes it feel
Yeah.
like it's actually on a piece of paper.
No, that's dope.
And then the extra little bit that I like to give it here, it's these like effects that I found. Again, I don't remember exactly where I got these actions, but I think they're mostly made for taking photos and making them look like they're in like a retro magazine, like as if you took a photo and sort
Gotcha.
of like half-toned it and put it in like a 70s magazine or something like that.
No, that
And
makes sense.
so when I apply it, it goes from that to something like this,
Whoa.
which I
Oh, that's
usually end
cool.
up tweaking the color a little bit because it'll get really yellowed and a bit darker. But you can see that it goes from like
Oh yeah,
this is what we had before, and then it adds this, and that, I don't know. I think it really just gives it something nice. I would
it
usually,
does.
it's a little bit too intense because it makes the previous texture just look a little bit too blown out. But
Hmm.
I like that it really feels like now that it's just in like a vintage, like 60s, like comic book or something like that.
It does. It adds a lot to it, which is super dope. And then Jacob in the chat saying this looks awesome. Raphael's amazing work, by the way. Love the process and the results.
Hell
Grace
yeah.
is saying,
Thanks,
wow,
guys.
love it. So chat's blowing up. They all, yeah, this is just super dope. Uh, but yeah,
Appreciate
I
it.
think we're in a good spot. Or is there any other things you wanted to
I
highlight
think
real quick?
that's pretty much it. I think we managed to
Cool.
tie it all in.
Dope. So just kind of recapping what we went over today too. We started out in Photoshop, looked at a lot of the sketches kind of early on,
Mhm,
did some of
mhm,
the
mhm.
line work for it as well. Then went in, added some of that gloopiness, that wild kind of softer edges to give it that different aesthetic. Half toned it, brought into Illustrator, showing some Photoshop, or brought into Illustrator, showing some image trace, and kind of that whole process, kind of vectorizing it, bringing it back over to Photoshop. And that's with these textures and stuff, which is super dope. And yeah, it's just been really cool to see your process too, because it's like I only get to see like the end result. So to be able to see the step by step for me is huge, just to be able to learn for myself. And I know the chat is always loving that too.
Cool. Yeah,
Um,
happy to share.
yeah, and is there any places that people can kind of learn more about you, kind of see your work, follow you?
Yeah,
Like,
like just on Instagram, it's Boring Friends, or on TikTok, it's Boring
mhm,
Friends Design. The
nice,
shop slash my website is boringfriends.ca. Those
sweet,
are the big ones, really. From there, you
dope.
can find any of the stuff I'm working on or what I'm up to.
Nice. And everyone, yeah, definitely go check out the shop. He's got some really cool, just different like designs for sale, some merch, shirts, some stuff like that. That is pretty cool. So yeah, I appreciate you doing this stream. Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
It's
thanks again
definitely super
for having
cool.
me. This was fun.
Yeah. And we still have about like one last question or one last room for one more question. If anyone's got it, now's the time of forever hold your peace.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Nope. Looks like we're pretty
Nothing.
good.
We
Well,
must
thank you
have
so
covered
much.
literally everything.
I think we did. We did everyone's homework, the math, all that good stuff. So thank you so much, Ben. I appreciate your time being on here. It's been really cool working with you and seeing your process. And thank you
Cool. Yeah.
everyone in the chat as
Thanks again for
well.
having me.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks everyone.
Cool. Thanks, guys.